Mouse has died. Okay, it's 7 o'clock, so welcome, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, to the Joint Transportation Board. Fire procedure. If the fire alarm is activated, please vacate the offices via the stairs opposite the lifts. Please do not use the lifts. Assemble in Hawley Square. Officers will assist you. I'm not sure that we're going to probably return to the chamber, though. Mobile phones. Could everyone present please ensure that their mobile phones are switched to silent and they're not used to make or receive calls in the chamber whilst this meeting is in progress. I must advise that if filming takes place, anyone in attendance in the public areas may have their image captured. I don't know if that's a problem for any members of the public. Does anyone intend to film the meeting? I'll take that as a no. Any member wish to speak under 20.1? That's also a no. In which case we go on to agenda item 1, apologies for absence. Charles, you want the list or?
Thank you, Chair. I know we have apologies from Councillors Harris Kobe, Councillor Nixie, Councillor Davis, Councillor Wright, and Councillor Crowbrow. Thank you,
Charles. Agenda item 2, are there any declarations of interest? No? In which case we'll go straight on to agenda item 3. Do members agree the minutes of the Joint Transportation Board meeting held on the 12th of September that they be approved and signed as a correct record? Agree? I need a proposer. Actually, I can propose them myself, so I'll need a seconder. Councillor Garner, and everyone's agreed? Yeah. Good. Agenda item 4 is the petition received by KCC on the continued use of glyphosate for highway weed control in Thanet. This will be considered by KCC in due course under their normal procedure for petitions. Do councillors have any questions or comments on the report? Which I do not believe we have seen, but okay, in which case there is no report. Okay. So this is merely for information. Happy to note that. You can't note a report if it's not there. Item 5 is Highways Works Programme. You have received that in the agenda. And Councillor Lewis, you're looking at me amazed. Have you not seen it? Or does anyone have any comments on this report?
Chair,
Councillor Matterface.
Appendix B is about drainage, Dencourt Road and Broadstairs. It says further design work currently taking place by engineers. I know drainage there's a problem, floods when they have heavy rain. It'd be quite useful if we could get an update on that for our next meeting, because I know they have been doing a lot of work, but just being told design work's currently taking place, we could do with a bit of an update to know where we are with that, if possible. Otherwise, I've got no other points.
Yes, I can certainly look into that. I'm not sure if anyone else has any updates on it. Welcome, Councillor Schonk. We're on the highway. Sorry. We're on the highway report, and we'll give you a minute to catch up. In the meantime, I will also raise the point that certainly in Broadstairs, we have roadworks planned for next year in Queen's Road in the middle of summer. And I have asked time and time again that these be avoided where possible. There's also lengthy roadworks at round about the same time in St. Peter's in the main street. So I'll try and get some information on those, or certainly the ones in Queen's Road, because that is, we have that on the agenda somewhere, but I can't remember which. I think it's gas. I think it's on the, it's gas repairs, but are there any other comments on? No?
Oh, there's a point. Chair, if I may.
Chair.
I'm not sure if everybody got an email from James Raitt, which is about the North Thanet Link Road, where he says that there's going to be archaeological trenching taking place early next year. Councillor Dawson nodding. It's very important that this is not interpreted as the work going ahead. It's just part of the essential archaeological search that they are doing. What we don't want is people jumping and say they've started and where's the funding, etc. So there was an email that went through. I don't know whether it went to everybody or just to... Did you get that?
Oh yes, it went through.
So,
it certainly went through. We received 2 emails
we got
from
one
KCC.
today. Yeah. That's
Councillor
fine.
Dawson.
Thank you. Yeah, that email did also go to the parish council in Birchington, which will be relevant to that work going on, and they can inform the residents, because yeah, you can imagine that they're going to be saying, oh, is it starting work now? So thank you for that, Councillor Matterface.
Councillor Lewis.
On that, I did ask a supplementary question to James. The cost is £100,000 and it's coming from S106 money, in case anybody wants to know who's paying for it.
Okay. Councillor Shonk, do you have any questions on the Highway Works programme?
I don't think you've got the hours to sit here. I mean, it is a concern to all of Thanet. It's not just the link road. It's the 17 houses that people presume that would be going with that. So whether KCC have got the money to do it, that's the biggest concern ever. But Thanet and Birchington, anyway, can't really say too much, because if we're just going to have a sort of dig up and see what treasures are underneath the road, as long as it's not predetermined, it's a big concern in Thanet. Thanks anyway.
Thank you. Any other comments? No? The report is for information. I'm happy to note the report. Thank you. Agenda item 6 is parking and waiting review in Thanet. Penny, I think you're taking this one.
More than happy to, Chair. So quite a small one for you this evening. We only have 3 proposals, and I have to say that we are already out for consultation on these, because we had an amendment that we were putting through, and we didn't want this to wait until potentially the end of next year. So these 3 are slightly round the wrong way, but they are for corner protection, double yellow lines in Birchington, on the Elfa Road, Ingle Close junction. That's to improve sight lines. And then 2 disabled persons parking bays, one across the frontage of 29 Richmond Avenue in Margate, and one on the frontage of 6 Herbert Road in Ramsgate. So I'll take any comments from members, please.
Are there any questions? Councillor Matterface. Oh.
If I could just ask Penny on the consultation for the ones that's currently out, I think the closing date was very beginning of January. So, so what would happen once that consultation has closed? What is the next stage, please?
So we will then review what's come in, and whether there is anything we need to do in terms of bringing them back to JTB, in which case they'll be coming back in March. If not, we'll then look to take it forward into a has-made document with KCC, and then we'll be looking to make it legal.
Councillor Lawson.
Sorry,
Councillor Dawson.
Did you say Lawson? Don't worry. Thank you, Chairman. Just to say that those proposals for the actual Ingle close from the Alpha Road is well overdue, because it is a heavy road, Alpha Road, and to get out of those junctions that come off, it is really difficult. So really welcome that. Thank you, Penny. Thank you.
Do we have any other comments? No? In which case, this report is for recommendation. and subject to the views of us on the JTB, the proposals shown in Annex 1 will be approved, and the proposals which require statutory consultation are advertised. Can I please have a proposer and a seconder for this?
I'll propose them.
Councillor Matterface, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Bright. Members happy to note this? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Agenda item 7 is the parking strategy update. This is a verbal?
Yes.
Thank you.
No worries. So, me again. You'll be pleased to know that after a very long time, we are almost at the end of our parking strategy journey in terms of getting the strategy, but we're at the beginning of the journey on how we implement it. So it's quite exciting times for us. The consultation, we've run 2 consultations over this year, one at the very beginning of the year and one that happened in, I think it started at the end of July and it went all the way through August into September. So it was 8 weeks, the second one. We received nearly 5,000 responses, which is unheard of for the company that did it. They were really pleased by how engaged everybody was, how positive people were. And that's, I think, for all of us, quite an enthused thing, because I think everyone always thinks of parking as being a negative subject, always parking in the wrong places or blocking roads and things like that. It was very positive feedback. I mean, obviously there was negatives as well, but generally people are on board with having a strategy that we all know we're going in the right direction. So it's just going to give you a summary of what that looks like. So the vision that was very much agreed upon was that Thanet District parking strategy will ensure there is high quality and appropriate located parking that supports economic development and regeneration, prioritises active and sustainable transport and provides a positive parking experience for residents, businesses and visitors. It's a lot of words, but what does it look like? So we have 8 objectives, which then feed into 52 actions, 30 of which are around off-street and 22 are around on-street. And those actions are broken down into quick wins, short-term, medium and long-term actions. So the strategy is 20 years long, because some of these things are going to take a long time to put in place. The quick wins are things that we will achieve in the first 12 months, and then after that the short term is 1 to 2 years, medium 3 to 4, and long term is anything over 5 years. We are committed to review it, so this isn't going to be a document that sits on the shelf. It will be reviewed, we'll keep working through it and move things forward as we go through. So the initial implementation plan, which will involve the quick wins, involves some really interesting, how do I put this? Some really interesting topics. The basic one is that we need to get approval for using parking revenue to support the strategy, which is what we do as we go through the process in terms of getting cabinet agreement. The other things that we're looking at doing in the first 12 months are signage strategy, which includes both static and the variable message signage, including reviewing car park names, spatial zoning of car parks, and linking it to a payment option study. So what that really means is where our car parks are located, what we call them, how we direct people to them, to make sure that people are going to the ones that are least busy or the ones that are near an area. So I'm going to use Joss Bay as an example. Joss Bay car park, Joss Bay. People go there because they know it's Joss Bay. Mill Lane car park in Margate, it doesn't really mean anything to people. So it's making sure that the names reflect the areas that they're in and mean something to people that are visiting. There's also a feasibility for delivering coach parking bays, so where we can look at putting those in. So we know there's an issue around not having enough. The development of an electric vehicle strategy, a car club feasibility study. We need to redevelop our web pages, which is something that the team are very keen on doing. We need to do some internal work around how we work with the planning team, so how we formalise parking considerations in development sites. We're going to review the residents' parking scheme so that we can have a consistent approach across the district and create a policy so that everybody knows how to apply for one, what it would look like, you know, what things are taken into consideration when you look at how residence permit schemes work. Looking at the funding streams for the EV strategy, and also a bike hanger policy. So a lot of those are kind of things that will then lead on to other things. Some of the more ambitious things going into the later years are things like the ANPR parking, where we might need new car parks and that kind of thing. So the strategy does cover across all aspects. You are my third meeting, and the final one, hopefully, will be on Thursday at Cabinet, where we will get it agreed. And then I have the 6th of January as the first date where we will start taking things forward in terms of how we take those quick wins forward and who does which bits. So I'm really looking forward to next year. By this time next year, I'm hoping I'm going to sit here and be able to say we've done this, this, this and this, and then we're moving on to the next bits. I do have a few stats for you if you are interested around the consultation. We had 86% of the respondents were in support of both the vision and the strategy, and that's a really high number, and that was seeing everything and the things we were discussing. The response was across the whole district. There was some opposition to a couple of things. So there was resistance to improved technology, whereas 35% of the respondents in that were sort of unsure or opposed to improved technology. I think that's probably due to people's experience in other places where improved technology means we take away all the old ways of doing things. Well, us and the government committed after COVID that, you know, cash is still legal tender, so there is options to pay for cash, and I think that's something that we'll always consider being important moving forward. It's not about taking away things, it's just about how we can improve technology. And then the most divisive question was around the creation of a flexible tariff structure, with 38% of the respondents supporting and 45% opposing, which is quite an interesting split right down the middle. And also another positive for the end of it was that 30% of our respondents were under the age of 45. Mm-hmm. So they were, you know, we engaged across all age groups and across the entire district. So yeah, it was a really good piece of work, and I'm very thankful to the residents for engaging, and also for councillors, A, for engaging, and B, for encouraging your residents to engage as well. So thank you very much. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Penny. Mr. Lewis.
Just a few observations where we are at the moment for room for improvement in Margate. Mill Lane, very useful, bit dirty, but that's to be expected. But why are so many cars allowed to park adjacent outside on yellow lines indefinitely? You know, at the back of Mill Lane. That's one question. Two, modern technology, the Limes car park, whatever you call it, in Trinity Square. The new technology, get rid of the people and the cash and put up barriers. And what happens within a few weeks, the barriers are smashed because people can't get out and they're not replaced. So how much revenue's been lost there, I can't imagine. And also, have you taken into account in your strategy the number of more cars there are going to be with these tens of thousands of extra houses? Thank you.
Penny, you happy to come back? So Herbert Place, which is you're referring to behind Mill Lane, is a difficult place to enforce. We enforce it regularly. People drive off, so it's instant tickets because it's curb-lipped. So we issue the tickets, they leave, they wait for us to leave, they drive around the corner and come back. We've been doing work with the police around how to enforce there as well, because obviously it's not just we enforce the parking, but there are other enforcement that the police can do. It is primarily drivers waiting for deliveries of food. Yeah, we do enforce it as much as we can. We can't be there 24/7 because then we can't be anywhere else, unfortunately. So yeah, it is a very difficult one for us, but we can only do what we can within the realms of our legislation. We do have the advantage that it is the car park that our officers park in, so they are there regularly backwards and forwards each day, moving people on and issuing tickets. Yeah, it's a very difficult one to enforce. In terms of the Trinity Square, I believe that was a trial that was put in place by some predecessors within TDC. It didn't work, and I think everyone's been quite open about the fact it didn't work. There were lots of lessons that were learnt around the need for back office support, which wasn't in place in order to assist people. And I think if anyone's read the Kent Online recently, it happens still in Canterbury, where problems occur in terms of technology and automated barriers. But there has to be the backup behind it, and I think that's the key lesson I think that was learnt from the Trinity Square. In terms of lost revenue, we haven't lost revenue in that site. It's no longer an ANPR site. It is a pay and display. So we put that back in place as quickly as we could. I can't remember what the third one was. Housing, yes, sorry. My brain went completely then. In terms of the strategy, it's about reviewing it as we go along. So we can't take into account what somewhere's going to look like potentially. But yes, in terms of developing car parks and as we move along, then yes, it will take that into account.
Thank you, Penny. Councillor,
Actually, I've got a question, John. The list.
so, yeah, Councillor Shong.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, I've got one or two questions. I'll try and make it brief. Parking is a big issue in Ramsgate. Harbour Street, it's absolutely stuffed night and day, other than at 10 o'clock when the gates are closed. If you had a fire in Ramsgate, they wouldn't get up there. Unfortunately, years ago, before my time, we had bollards on the right-hand side, but they're too far apart, so people can actually park on the pavement, which they do every night. The police go up there, just ignore it. I mean, it's a nightmare. King Street, I catch a bus whenever I can. You can't move up King Street because it's all illegal parking, and that poor old bus driver weaves that vehicle to and fro. Anyway, that's yellow lines and parking, which I think needs to be a bit more pressurised on that. I was interested to hear about the coach parking. Would that be for Ramsgate, Margate, Broadstairs? Because that would be a way of getting people out of the cars into some of the towns without being yellow tickets or being parking tickets. But years ago we used to have parking for coaches and buses anyway, but we've lost all them, and so it's been sort of turned the clock back. But it's something we do need, because we've got so many students in Ramsgate, Broadstairs, and the poor coach driver doesn't know where to park, so he parks outside Wetherspoons if he can. And they walk, they do walk, those students walk miles to that bus from Ramsgate to wherever. Anyway, maybe something we can look at. Keep things moving, thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Shaw.
I'm happy to come back on that if you like. Yeah, the coach feasibility is exactly that, is where can we, do we need it, what's required. And in terms of the enforcement, it's the same. We are there, we just can't be there all the time.
Unfortunately, a lot of the places that had coach parking have been sold off for development, which is a big mistake made by just about every administration in the past few years. Councillor Matterface.
Thank you, Chair. Canterbury, you can have not quite a standing order with the car park, but you register your number plate, and if you go to one of their car parks, obviously it registers when you go in, it registers when you come out. Are there any plans, or do we have something similar here? Because we tend not to use car parks, we tend to either use the bus or walk or whatever. Do we have anything where somebody's number plate is already registered, and then if you go in, stay for a couple of hours, it then automatically reports to your bank and you have to pay for it? Yep.
We don't have any ANPR number plate car parks in Thanet, so as part of the strategy there is that to look at developing those over the next few years.
It does speed things up, except if you get stuck behind somebody who, yeah, quite, but it's guaranteed revenue. It's guaranteed revenue because the person goes in, the person comes out, and it automatically clocks it. Thanks.
Councillor Dawson.
Thank you, Chairman. I think that Canterbury has got it sorted out because they've got lots of funding for that type of city status, which we haven't got because, you know, we're not a city or not classed as a city. But I think that as we go forward and we have more house building, you know, we are going to look a bit like a city. And I think those automated sort of barrier responses, I mean, I got trapped in one once in Whitstable and it didn't recognise my vehicle registration number, but it did have a device on it and it had a button saying, if you can't get out kind of thing, press this button, do something, and it let me out. It gave me a ticket. So there is ways that it will actually let you out if you have the right system in place. But I think with this strategy, it's very ambitious because it has to be, because we're going down that route now where there's so much traffic in Thanet. We have to now be ambitious and we have to put it over a 20-year, you know, period, because it's going to take that long and that amount of money to get this right. So I do wish the officers well, I wish, you know, the council well for actually taking this on board and going with it, because it's going to need a lot of support from us. Thank you.
No. Thank you, Councillor Dawson. You want another question? Yeah.
I think part of the idea behind the strategy is basically to get cars off the road into the car parks, so that they're not blocking, as has been said, they're not blocking King Street, they're not blocking Harbour Street. But that would have to make it attractive financially for people to say, well, I'm not going to leave my car on the street here where I can do it for nothing, but I will use Mill Lane or Leopold Street, whatever. So obviously pricing is going to be a key factor in this. Has anything been done in the strategy looking at what would be a viable charges? Because I know obviously nobody wants to pay, but if they have to make it, people say, well, yes, actually, I'm quite prepared to pay to go there. My car will be off the road and the traffic will flow more readily. Yeah.
Yeah, so part of this is around looking at our fees and charges and making sure that so equally, there are places where people wish to park, that we could possibly look at how we encourage more people into those areas, and how we, where there's places that people don't wish to park, how we take some from there and put them, just try and move it around a bit. And a lot of that can be done through pricing. It is in there to look at moving forward, yes.
Councillor Shaw, you want to come back?
I seem to have a lot to say today. Obviously, we've got to take these motorists with us, because it's not a war against motorists. Every council at the moment are clamping down on cars. Vehicles are lifeblood to town centres, but there is a time when these cars are driving amongst on a Friday in Ramsgate, and they're going through the market town, which is open, and someone hit my arm the other day with a mirror of their car going too fast through the town. So it is a big concern, really. So what do we do with all these cars? It is a shame we got that multi-storey in Ramsgate. What's happening there? I thought TDC were going to try and lease it back to themselves, or was it still owned by a sort of a pension fund in Norway, or teachers fund? I mean, anyway, it is a problem. But King Street, like I say, buses, we try to keep the buses moving, and tonight they've just gone chaos because you had an accident in Broadstairs. But when you've got people just parking yellow lines and they know there's no traffic wardens in the evening, because they don't work after 5 o'clock, nothing's working in this country at the moment.
Are there any other points on this?
Can I come
Penny?
back on
Yes,
that?
if you'd like
Sorry,
to come
I
back
think
on
it's
that.
really important to say they do work after 5 o'clock. We work all evenings. So yeah, we work from 6:30 in the morning through to 10 o'clock at night. And so they are out and about. And I think it's just important that I make that point, because I think they are given an unfair deal on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I will mention a couple of things myself now. There shouldn't be a war on cars, because we have an elderly population. They rely on cars. That's all very well and good if you're fit and healthy and you can cycle. But for anyone that can't, and it can happen to quite a few people rather rapidly, we have to have something in place so that they can get from A to B. And they can't walk maybe more than 50 yards or maybe even more than 30 yards. So we do have to have some facilities for them. The problem is we've sold off a lot of those facilities already, and therefore I would say that in order to get this strategy working, the council has to have a grip to a large degree, whilst they still have that control, on the local planning activities. because it's no point in continually allowing development to happen. And yes, you can stop it in certain areas, but they've allowed development, particularly near the town, that has swamped the empty spaces that could have been used. And now you're left with very little to use because it's all been taken up by development. So it's a failing here in the planning department, in my opinion, over many years. But the other thing I was going to say was we have to have do something, because we now have a diagnostic centre wanting to come into the busiest road in Thanet, Westwood Road.
Yeah.
And Westwood Road is a nightmare. It's a nightmare because of the schools there, and that has to have a solution. I have suggested one, both to the school and to KCC, because there is no way you can have more development of that nature, which requires parking, and put it in. It will fail if it does not have parking. It will fail because, and I know TDC are pushing for it, regardless of the fact that there isn't adequate parking. We have to find a solution for that. I think it's beneficial to get that centre, but we do have to have a solution, and that means looking at other alternatives of sites around and seeing what you can do. And the last thing I would say is I was very surprised. I think you should look at your Visit Thanet websites when it comes to information because I noticed that there was no mention at all of the bus route in Broadstairs. It isn't stagecoach, but it works just as well. And it's not even on the Visit Thanet site, which it's about the only bus I see that's full nearly every day, albeit a small one and albeit not very regular. But it does go all round Broadstairs, but it's not even mentioned. There is a little bit of a fixation about stagecoach being the only bus service in town. So I would ask that that's also looked at. If we're going to rely on buses, and I do feel that we should have better buses. But are there any other comments? No?
Just come back. I just want to make it perfectly clear, just because obviously people maybe watch this from home. This strategy is not a war on motorists. This is about how everything works better moving forward, how we provide spaces for bikes, for coaches, for cars, how everything moves in together. I'd just like to make that clear. Thank you.
I've got a point, actually.
Yeah. Councillor Bright first.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just interested in creative solutions, really, 'cause, I think that we do need to be encouraging. We need to be thinking to the future and thinking about car clubs. We need to be thinking more about community transport. We need to be thinking about collaborating with maybe supermarkets and schools to see if we can use their car parks, especially, as Councillor Binks says, near the medical centre. Are you going to be liaising with KCC and schools and to find those kind of creative solutions where we can collaborate together and sort of share space? Thank you.
So not in the first phase of this. The first phase of this, I've just explained what all the things we're looking at doing. We already do some of that work. So Tesco's in Newington already offers their car park free of charge to Newington parents for when they want to do the drop-off. It's not particularly popular, but that is still there. And yeah, we do try and work where we can with people to find those solutions, particularly around some of the school areas.
The reason I mentioned it is because I know that St George's also have a deal with Asda opposite, but the problem is the parents don't know about it, so it's about communicating it. And I don't know whether that's a school thing, whether the school needs to... Okay, that's fine, thank you.
Yeah, I might add on that unfortunately the junior school does not have, and I would say the biggest problem is with the junior school, because that is where most cars are being parked to both deliver and collect. And I've spoken to the St George's junior school, and the only solution would be to expand next to them, basically, if it were possible. Tesco's has been approached anyway for Westwood. Councillor Matterface.
Yeah, picking up Councillor Binks's point about this health care hub on Westwood Road, Northwood Road, looking at the planning report on that. KCC has issues itself about inadequate parking. Not so much about the traffic, but inadequate parking. I did find it interesting that the bus transport strategy, there is actually virtually no bus there except the 34. There's no bus from Broadstairs other than the loop, obviously going around and people walking, so that is actually a concern. So people going there who might otherwise say, I'll jump on the bus, are going to get in their car. And they're going to drive up there. And if you haven't got a car, you're going to have to get a taxi. And that is another issue.
Yes, this was discussed today at KCC,
Yeah.
and the traffic is a problem because of the traffic being on road, it means that there is no parking for, which in the report says that there would be parking on road. Councillor Schonk.
Well, traffic is the biggest problem at the moment. That's why people are circumventing anywhere. I mean, they will go along the coast now rather than go anywhere near Hayne Road, Westwood Cross. Anyway, what I was concerned about is the Thanet transport, that little bus that used to pick people up. That's gone bust. Now I visit people that have been, they're prisoners who are in their homes because there's nothing for them to pick them up. What happened to that Thanet transport minibus? I mean...
Okay. Are there any other comments, questions? I think we welcome the strategy. We welcome somebody looking at it with a long-term view, and I think that is to be welcomed. It's quite a challenge, though. The population here is expected to go up into the 170s, 170,000, which is a huge increase. And that virtually takes most of the land, as far as I can see. But so you do have quite a struggle with this, but we do welcome it. Are we happy to note the report? Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much, Penny. Moving on to agenda item 8, Broadstairs Town Traffic Event. Councillor Bright, you are going to lead on this. Could you use your mic?
Thank you, Councillor Binks, for agreeing to put this on the agenda. That's very kind of you. I just thought it was worth... a lot of work went into the Broadstairs traffic information drop-in sessions, and I didn't want it to sort of fall by the wayside and not be mentioned. So I'm kind of mentioning it because I think it was a very positive and useful event, and it was a really good example of kind of councils working together and collaborating together at the different tiers, and also working with different agencies. And I actually think that it really helped us as a council to frame our highways improvement plan and just sort of get a grip really on what the major issues were in Broadstairs. So I just really wanted to just highlight the fact that it was really positive, and I would encourage other parish and town councils to do something similar, because actually we got really good response from residents, and off the back of it I think we did realise that the main issues were parking and inconsiderate parking, and also speeding, especially around school drop-off times when traffic's particularly heavy. So it's not speeding above the speed limit, it's driving too fast for the conditions of the road. That was the issue. And it was really useful then to have a follow-up meeting with Kent County Council officers, just to highlight those points. So we felt like we were being listened to. So I think it was a really useful event, because we were listened to by officers, and I think now we've got those good relations and foundations to actually develop, hopefully, a very useful scheme for Broadstairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bright. And might I say congratulations, because I think it was a very well organised event, and I was quite surprised at how many people, they seem to keep coming throughout the day. And yeah, I think the problems were very similar in many cases, but they were clearly problems that could be resolved with good work, and I think already there's been some improvements and progress Any comments? Councillor Garner.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just, at the risk of repeating, I would just like to echo what Councillor Bright says. I think as she says, it's been a really good example of collaboration across all the councillors, both town, district and county council within Broadstairs and St Peters, and officers from Kent County Council and the police being involved and Speed Watch, and we've come up as a council with a really good set of next steps, identifying, using the data we've collected to identify areas to focus on, to put some 20 mile per hour schemes in and outside, and do some work outside of school. But it's not just about that, it's also about communication with the schools, communication with the residents. So we are going to be getting back to those residents who took part in the survey, took part in the drop-in session, to update them on what we're doing, and we'll always be looking to engage with those residents and other residents to get things changed. And I think it's fair to say we've sort of developed a good model, as Councillor Bright said, as how other parishes and towns could go about a similar type thing. And I'm sure that we would be happy to talk to and work with parishes and towns across the district to do something similar there. The more of us that do this, the more we're likely to make the roads safer. So, yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Garner. Councillor Matterface and then Councillor Dawson.
On the back of that, and the fact that we have a very good ward beat officer, we have had the police, particularly around St Peter's School, we had a police surgery, which was perfectly timed for school chucking out time, and our beat officer went out, and because he'd parked a police car there, only one person was parking. He had a quiet word with her and she moved on. So it's a presence. They've also had a presence on various other roads. They sort of just turn up with the speed gun and everything. So it's important, as Councillor Garner says and Councillor Bright said, it's people working together. The police are very supportive of this because they're fed up being called out at 3:20 on a Sunday morning because somebody had a hit and run outside my house or in Reading Street or in other roads around the area. So if we can make the roads safer, obviously you're never going to stop people at 3:20 in the morning, but hopefully. They did actually have a presence and got somebody on Beaker Road at 8:40 on a Sunday morning who'd driven into another car under the influence apparently. So it is cooperation and it is really important. It's important that we continue that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Matterface. Councillor Dawson.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm quite concerned, actually, that the schools aren't actually giving out those teachings on traffic situations where there's a lot of children involved in accidents. I'm really concerned about that because we know that the LED lights aren't really very bright. You've got a lot of darkness. You've got huge amounts of light coming from the cars now, from their headlights. So all you can see is another car coming towards you. You can't see if there's anyone on the periphery in dark clothing. And I would have thought, because I can see that this is an issue, that the schools would have seen that this is an issue, especially when it gets dark at 4 o'clock when the kids are going out of school. So I am really surprised that the schools aren't actually teaching the children how to be safe on those roads. So that is shocking, actually, really shocking.
There are courses that KCC run, and some of the schools do participate. I think you've got an update on that, Councillor Bright.
Yeah, so thank you. There are, well, I've had a very, I've had a couple of meetings now actually with the school travel planner at Kent County Council, and they do offer lots of different resources to schools, and she was very keen to go into schools, and I have contacted all of the schools, primary and secondary schools, and there are quite a few that have already signed up to it. So most of them have. So that is happening. So it's not something that teachers obviously teach themselves, but they do actually invite the Kent officers in to give those lessons.
Oh, that's really great. In this report here, it just says that there was a concern because, you know, I think the council officer had done taking some research before the meeting by contacting local teachers in Thanet to ask if they teach traffic safety at their schools, and they were surprised to hear they did not. So that's what brought my attention to it. I thought that maybe they just weren't doing it.
I think that was town council officers. That wasn't a whole. That they didn't call every single school. I think that was a couple of schools that they spoke to. So maybe that was a little bit misleading in the report. Thank you.
Are there any other comments on this? I do recommend it to parishes in the area. It's they may not be big and they may not have so many roads, but you can guarantee they've all got problems at some point, and I think it's a very good idea. Councillor Shonk.
Well, as KCC, sometimes I do stand outside some of these schools and see what that poor lollipop person puts up with, the abuse, brutatory. It's chaos. I've done 2 schools, and it's every day. People park where they want to, when they want to, and if you say anything to them, you do get more or less told where to go. So it is a big issue. And years ago, I'm old enough to know we used to always have them adverts on TV, wear something white at night, or that reflective badge. There's none of that now, and everybody's wear black clothes, don't they? Anyway, as from the 21st of December, the evenings will get lighter, so they'll be getting home in the light. Thank you.
Okay, well, this report was for information only. I think it's been very useful. I congratulate everyone that organised it. Councillors, happy to note the report?
Yes,
thank you. Agenda item 9. Now, this was not meant to be a large agenda item, but I know that from time to time members want to bring a question up, and they want to look into detail on something that is particular for their area. And I felt that we should have an item that gives you that opportunity. Obviously, you can always contact the chairman, whichever year it is, but I do feel that there should be a possibility of bringing something up which isn't necessarily here just because the officers have produced a report, but it's something that matters very much, and you see it as being a problem maybe for not all the area, but certainly a large patch of it. So this is an opportunity for something like this. I mean, we have to look at anything that is related to transport and make recommendations. And so in the future, if you haven't got anything today, that's not a problem, but in the future, I'd like to leave a few minutes for any other items, any other issues that councillors have. Councillor Dawson.
Thank you, Chairman. I have noticed when I've driven around certain areas, especially Westwood Cross, going into Cliffs End, when you go along the Canterbury Road from the Lord of the Manor, that you know those reflective, they're like bollards, but they're kind of a bit flimsy. They're so dirty that they're not really reflective anymore. So they're not really they're not, when your car light shines on them, it doesn't actually highlight until you get right close to it. And there is a build out in Cliffs End along that Canterbury Road that hasn't even got one. So there's a build out that hasn't got reflector. It's completely in darkness. You've got the silly little LED lights, sorry, but they're like burnt out stars that don't do anything anymore. And then you've got complete darkness, this build out that hasn't got reflection, whatever they're called, I don't know. They're traffic furniture, aren't they? Is that what they're kind of thing, traffic furniture? But you know, as you're driving through the lines through the middle of the road, you can't see them as you're coming into Westwood Cross as well. We need more visibility because we've got more cars on the road. It's not visible at night really because we haven't got a lot of lighting. So these street furniture has to be cleaned, because if that's the only reflection that we've got for cars to kind of maintain their sense of where they are on which side of the road they're in and stuff like that, we need to make sure that they are actually kept clean and kept in good working order.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Penny about this one because I'm not sure if that's a TDC or a KCC thing.
I have no idea, Chair. I'll have to find out. It's not my
I suspect it's KCC.
It feels
Because
like
it's street-
KCC,
yeah.
but I don't think we clean street furniture for them, but I will find out.
Yeah.
I think it's a fair
I think it's a fair point, and I'll find out for you. Councillor Shonk.
I quite agree with Emma. Ramsgate is one of the worst areas. In fact, I do some myself. I get in touch with TDC and they say it's KCC. I get in touch with the person at KCC. They said no, it's TDC. So I'm stuck in the middle. So I'll ask Penny, who is responsible for the middle of the islands? Not the road signs that need cleaning anyway, because I don't think they've been cleaned for about 18 months. The rain cleans them. One's knocked down. They just lay there. But there's grass and mulch. Been there 18 months plus. London Road, from all the way from Lauder Manor into Ramsgate, the main road into Ramsgate. It's absolutely appalling. I've done one of the roads myself, up the top of Westcliff Road. In fact, the lady was so impressed. She said, "It hasn't been done for 3 years." She bought me a cup of tea. Isn't it wonderful? But we're doing the work ourselves. I think sometimes I've asked for a officer KCC to come out with me one day to have a look at this, but it's always been TDC. No, it's KCC. So I do it myself. I can't argue, but I've done one. I can't do the road, but I will do if I have to. And the road signage is absolutely filthy. And the trees are hanging. The lights are covered in trees. We've been left behind in Thanet, unfortunately.
Okay, Councillor Shonk. We will find out who is responsible for the cleaning. And thank you, Councillor Dawson. If there are Councillor Garner. I am going to time limit this in future. So
Oh, sorry, I'll just...
But-
well, I was going to add, while we're at it with the signs, if we could add cleaning graffiti off for the road signs as well, that'd be nice. I did see someone doing it on the road, on the Margate Road the other day, but no. No, I wanted a totally different subject I wanted to raise, which I have been thinking about, but I know this might not be the right form. So disabled badges, people with a disabled badge can park on double yellow lines where they're not causing an obstruction, which is fine. Now there are other residents, say pregnant women. I know I've talked to Penny about a particular case, but it gave me an idea. I thought, would it be possible, or would this be the right form to discuss whether pregnant women would be able to get a badge that they could use so that they were able to park on double yellow lines? You know, when they're loading and unloading stuff, it can be from a long way away. So I wondered if that was something we could discuss, or was something that we were able to consider, because I thought that might be a
Councillor
possibly
Lewis.
good idea.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, Mike.
Can you put the microphone?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry to disappoint you, Mike. I've been involved in trying to get blue badges for a lot of our residents, and I think by the time you get a blue badge, residence badge for a pregnant woman, the baby's been born.
And it should be at school.
Is that something that you can do?
Well, why should this take so long? Can I just ask,
It takes.
why does it take so long to get a blue badge? I appreciate there is a procedure, but I mean the one that Councillor Binks managed to help for a resident in the ward, she'd been waiting for over a year. And, you know, she was elderly, she was becoming frailer, couldn't go out with her daughter because they couldn't park anywhere. So,
Yes.
Because I asked that question at full County Council, and I was assured, believe it or not, that every one was done within 4 months. and that I doubt very much is accurate, to say the least. I mean, I think also there's a problem that the 4 months doesn't start when you apply for it. It starts when they process it, which means it could be 5 to 6 months. So there's the small print is hidden.
The explanation we have been given in a briefing is that there was a backlog because there are a very large amount of blue badges in Kent, and the explanation was that the backlog, and they had engaged extra staff to try to work through the backlog, and yet some people will get the blue badge very quickly. We hear about the ones who don't, but actually, and the one that was a year, I feel that that was probably never taken up. That was never checked at all, and therefore it was unusual in that respect. But I do believe that there has been a backlog, and they have engaged staff to get rid of that backlog. But it takes time because they have to go through a lot of checks, and one can argue that it shouldn't take 4 months, and I know in KCC several members of the council have argued that it shouldn't take 4 months, but they are trying to speed it up, and I think they have managed to do so. I haven't got the up-to-date figures, but I can get those for you if you wish. And as for the...
that's sort of getting on to a different subject, isn't it? So I assume that if someone becomes pregnant, they can't then apply for one. That's what I'm looking to try and change it so somebody who's pregnant can apply for a badge. Then the length of time it might take, that's another matter, but I assume at the moment you're not able to.
I'm assuming the same. It's a temporary situation, isn't it? But I can ask about that if Mr. Lewis doesn't know.
The problem with that, sorry to be pedantic, that blue badges are given for a 3-year period. So I don't think you could actually call it a blue badge. I think you call it something else and start a new process completely. But I don't think you should amalgamate it with a blue badge.
Okay. So we've raised a few things, and I will try to get some information back to you, to everyone, in fact. Other than that, that was the last agenda on the item. Item on the agenda. It's getting late. And that concludes the business for this evening. So I thank everybody for attending, and the meeting ends at 8:57. 7:57. It's been a long day. Thank you very much.